You can listen to the Canadian Gothic early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Include it with Prime.
You are listening to Canadian Gothic.
It's now been over 5 months since 4-year-old Jack and his 6-year-old sister, Lilly Sullivan, were reported missing from their home in rural Nova Scotia. As we detailed in this ongoing series of episodes, the children's mother and stepfather told police that when they awoke at about 10 a.m. on the morning of Friday, May 2nd, Jack and Lilly were gone. And since then, the case has twisted and turned in nearly every direction. Yet to this point, none have led back to Jack or Lilly. But thanks to a recent update, I think we can scratch at least one possible explanation off the list. The RCMP Major Crime Unit just announced the result of their recently carried out but often requested cadaver dog search in the areas surrounding the children's home. In this episode, Madeleine Klein and I will continue to break down the updates and developments in this case by reviewing the many interesting aspects of that search and how it changes the case going forward. So grab a drink, we got a lot to get into. Tonight, in the 12th episode of this Canadian Gothic series, we're again going to be asking the question, where are Jack and Lilly Sullivan?
2 dogs trained to detect human remains were brought in from British Columbia the week of September 22nd. They spent about 3 days searching a total of 40 kilometers for evidence of the 2 missing children.
I didn't do anything. I know Malaya didn't do anything. I know my mother didn't do anything. Those are 3 people on the property. I mean, after the polygraph exams, they should have known right there. We didn't kill any of the kids, or we didn't kill the kids.
Ms. Madeleine Klein, we're back now to discuss the 5th month in the search for Jack and Lilly Sullivan. It's been a couple weeks since we did an episode covering this story, and that's probably because it's been a little bit since there's been updates, but we have some to break down this week. But before we get into them, let me ask, how you doing over there, Madeleine Klein?
Oh, I'm, dandy. Can't complain. I'm sure I could find something to complain about, but...
I'll make it easy for you. It's October, and I believe Regina has already had their first snowfall.
It was so ugly yesterday. And there's still snow on the ground today. I woke up just in a terrible mood because I was expecting it to all be gone, and it's not.
Mm-hmm. That is pretty sad. It's probably, I'm in Nova Scotia. You're on the other side of the country. It's 15 degrees here about.
Oh.
So I'm guessing you're just below zero. It's crazy the difference in climate from one side of Canada to the other. I'm glad I live on this side, though. I'll just say it up front.
And I'm always jealous. I could see my breath last night. Like, it was crazy.
Mm.
So
yeah, that is crazy.
Only 6 more months to go for me.
Well, let's get into it. We've been breaking down and following the updates related to the disappearance of and search for Jack and Lilly Sullivan for now 5 months. We've covered so many different twists and turns in this story. A lot of them involve searching and ground searching and double checking with a second follow-up ground search. There's been so much of that, but one thing we've talked about a lot and the public has been asking about a lot, if not demanding, is cadaver dog searches, which is a dog that specializes in seeking out the decomposition of human remains. And the dogs that do this are highly specialized. They're fairly rare. There's only like a handful of them in Canada, as far as I know. It's been something, again, since the beginning. There's been talk of having a cadaver dog search in this area. It has finally happened. It happened just a couple weeks ago, during the week of September 22nd. It was actually 2 dogs, one named Narc and one named Kit, who came to Nova Scotia from British Columbia, and they conducted a search of the children's property, as well as roughly 40 kilometer area surrounding it. So, and this was done over a period of about 3 days. So a very significant area searched by these dogs. And in tonight's episode, we're going to talk about the lead up to this search, the findings of the dogs or lack thereof, and just how this search having been conducted pushes the narrative in this case forward. But I don't think we need to tease the outcome. I think we'll just say right off the bat, despite the cadaver dog search of this tremendous amount of space, they found absolutely nothing.
And this just leads us back to the ultimate question of what the hell happened to these kids? Because this is baffling.
Mm-hmm. And the accuracy of cadaver dogs, they are so good that often when cadaver dogs are deployed, even if they don't find the subject that they're specifically searching for, they can end up finding other human remains for
Yes.
unrelated cases because they are that good.
I was just gonna say something like that. Like 40 kilometers,
It's a big area.
that's a long ways.
So these dogs are incredible. The fact that despite their skill and experience, having found absolutely nothing, yeah, there's a lot to talk about. But let's start at the beginning, and we'll start with following along with some news reports about the then upcoming dog search. So I have when it came out that there was going to be a cadaver dog search, of course, the media reached out to all the people involved in this story, from the children's stepfather, Daniel Martel, who appears, in many of the media reports. He was willing to speak to them about the upcoming dog search and what it could mean and what his expectations, or I guess hope, is with the dog search. RCMP Major Crime Unit was in touch with the media throughout all of this. So there's a lot of good information that we can glean from simply listening in on many of the news reports surrounding the then upcoming dog search, cadaver dog search. So what do you think we start with Daniel Martel, since he's been a prominent voice in the series and in this story since the beginning?
See, and we'll get there because we'll watch these, but I don't know, something he says gives me a little bit of a red flag in just one of these little slip of the tongue.
There's a lot of interesting stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff he says, a lot of interesting stuff the RCMP says. There's just a lot. But in this story and in this development specifically, there's going to be a lot of reading between the lines, but I think it'll be a good exercise. Let's start with an interview that Daniel Martel gave with CBC. One of the first questions they asked him was, the dog search, the cadaver dogs are going to be deployed here in the next few days. What do you think is going to happen? What is your prediction? And this may be the clip you're referencing. Listen to his answers.
So are you thinking that the dogs will go in there and won't find anything?
I know for 100% they won't find anything. I mean, that's probably why they waited this long to do it. It's just to keep the public informed, I guess, that they're hard at work.
Is there any piece of you that's preparing for the fact, like, what if they do find something?
No, because I didn't do anything. I know Malaya didn't do anything. I know my mother didn't do anything. Those are 3 people on the property. I mean, after the polygraph exams, they should have known right there. We didn't kill any of the kids, or we didn't kill the kids.
Why do you think that they're not possibly, like, why that they didn't possibly wander into the woods?
Well, with the amount of resources that were used, and I mean, for everything from drones to helicopters to classified technology and all the searchers on the ground, I mean, searchers on bicycles, they did everything.
That roughly 1 minute of statement from Daniel Martel, which is the children's stepfather, is so dense. There's so much information in there that I think we could talk an hour about some of the things he said. But starting at the beginning, the first thing he says is, I know they're not going to find anything. I can guarantee it 100% they're not going to find anything. That's pretty surprising, but he's held that position from the beginning. Like, these kids, when they didn't find them the first day, they're not in the woods. They didn't just wander off. I believe he's convinced that they were taken by someone. And I think that's what he means by I can guarantee 100%. But that's just a kind of an odd thing to say.
Right. Like, yeah. See, that's exactly what I thought too. It's like, why are you saying these things with such confidence? Like, you're kind of, what you're saying is, they're not in there because where else they are.
But I don't think that's what he intended, it would be easy to read into that statement in that way.
Definitely.
I think it's just like a bad choice of words. In my heart, or in my mind, what he's trying to say is, I'm convinced they're not in the woods. I couldn't guarantee it, because how would I know? Because I'm not responsible, but I don't believe they're going to find anything.
But he's 100% certain they won't. Whether he had anything to do with it or not, the main rule for anything in life is keep it simple, stupid. So just like, Dan, stop saying stuff.
Short answers to the point. take a minute and think about it. Yeah. I did like his follow-up statement to that, though, is he said, like, I think they know, talking about the RCMP, I think they know they're not going to find anything. They're just doing it. And what he says is, I don't know if this is his exact words, but it was something like, they're just doing it to keep the public informed that they're still searching. And I think what he means is this is maybe a bit of like theater, like they're just doing this search to show to the public that they're still doing stuff. And I don't know if I disagree with him with that.
No, I would agree with that, especially because like those dogs don't get deployed for free. That's an expensive search, so
Actually, I'll jump right into that. You say it's an expensive search. The dogs don't just get deployed for free. The resource that is a cadaver dog is something that's highly sought after. Every missing persons case in Canada, I can imagine, would like to have a cadaver dog search. So they're in high demand. The fact that they sent 2 dogs to Nova Scotia from British Columbia, the other side of the country, to conduct this search, a long trip, 5 months after the children went missing, it makes you think, like, why now? Someone who we would have heard their voice on the show in the past, his name is Jim Hoskins. He is a former RCMP Major Crime Unit member. He's now retired, and he speaks to Global News a lot as a subject matter expert on this. And in an interview with him about the then upcoming dog search, they asked him that question, why now? Why would the dogs be deployed now? His answers were interesting, and it's on topic with what you just said. Listen to this.
When you call cadaver dogs in this late, it's for one reason, is because they are most effective when they're looking for decomposition. 2, where are they looking for decomposition and why? What information do they have that takes them to that particular position?
Yeah, so it's morbid to say, but these dogs are trained to smell human decomposition. And of course, a month or 2 later, there's going to be a stronger smell than there would be in the days after. So that's one aspect of this. But I think the more salient point he makes is that something has led there to be a demand now to get the dogs here. And where they take the dogs is an area obviously of interest. So we can read between the lines with what the RCMP are doing by, where they're searching. But as it turns out, this dog search seems to cover the children's property in a 40-kilometer area around the home, which is basically the full area that the ground search was conducted in the beginning. So that kind of makes me think it isn't that targeted of a search. It's not like they were just in one specific area.
no.
40 kilometers is a big area.
They didn't get some like super hot tip that the kids were in a specific area. But this just like the fact that these cadaver dogs found nothing, and through all these months and all the searches, I don't know whether the kids are still alive or not, but they were taken away somewhere, obviously.
I think it is very clear. We'll get to the results, the official results in the words of the RCMP in a moment. One last piece I want to play from Daniel. This is from that same CBC interview before the search was actually conducted. As we heard, they asked him, what do you think will come out of this? And he says, I guarantee they're not going to find the kids or any remains. Another thing they asked him is like, what do you hope comes out of this? And I just think this was an interesting point to highlight, because it comes back to the social media, what he perceives to be attacks against him on social media. Listen to this one.
So what are you happy about? What do you hope this will bring?
I would just like to see maybe the social media speculation theories and accusations, maybe they're not going to stop, but slow down, because at this point they're getting ridiculous.
Tell me about the toll, like what you were just mentioning earlier about social media.
Yeah, social media has been quite a circus, we'll call it, but I can't control them, and they're free to judge, but maybe just use a little bit of this before they start typing or use an AI for pictures.
Interesting just to hear him address the online discourse surrounding this case, where for a lot of people, there are people you will not convince that Daniel Martel didn't do it. And I kind of like the way he handled that question because he says like, I hope it maybe directs a bit of the online kind of discussion, at least encourages people to use their head before they start typing, which I think would be important. He specifically referenced sharing AI pictures. And I don't know if this is what he's referring to specifically, but I saw something going around. This was actually in one of the Facebook groups that discussed this case. It was a photograph of Daniel Martel, the children's stepfather, standing like in water, like with his, I think they call them like waist high boots or whatever that you would wear fishing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He's holding a fishing rod. On each side of him is like a crocodile or an alligator. And people shared it being like, they need to check, the areas Daniel fishes because he could have fed the children to crocodiles. And it's clear, like in Nova Scotia, we do not have alligators or crocodiles or any large reptiles that could eat a child.
So some Yahoo in Florida probably made that.
Who has no idea, but it was shared far and wide.
Oh, of course.
And in fact, it was the caption or the thumbnail photo. It was used as the thumbnail photo in a YouTube video that had like a couple 100,000 views. So it's and that's just one example. When I heard him reference AI, I thought, I wonder if he's talking about that crocodile. All this to say, in the lead up to the cadaver dog search, according to Daniel Martel, expectations weren't high. He only hoped it would maybe cool a bit of the online accusations being hurled against him. I think he probably knows it, but I would say there is nothing that is going to change that. They could find the children alive and well, and there will still be people online saying, like, I can't believe Daniel had done this to them for those 5 months. That's my thought on it.
With the utmost confidence as well. I always have to remind myself that, like, the people of the internet are so weird, and to not let it bother me. I could not imagine.
And they don't know you or anything, but
no, exactly.
But the big difference is people like you and I decide to put ourselves there.
Yes.
Someone like Daniel Martel or Malaya Murray Brooks or any family member or loved one to a missing person or someone who died in this horrific way, I call them tragic celebrities. And they're people who are famous or infamous as a result of their connection to some kind of personal tragedy. And those people don't choose that. That's why they often come across weird in media, and they kind of make the perfect target for picking apart their statements and their words and stuff, because they're not like public speaker type people. They're just regular people that are thrust into the spotlight during one of their darkest moments for everybody to look at and follow like it's, a Netflix documentary, because it probably will be before you know it.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. That adds another level of like tragedy onto it pretty much.
Yeah. But that said, there is reasonable criticism of people involved in these stories. So it's I think like what Daniel said, and the part of that last statement that I agree with is, people are free to talk about this and free to have their own opinions. I just wish they would use their head before they start typing and, not share AI crap. And that's the part that I kind of agree with. But
I wholeheartedly agree with all of that.
Yeah, me too. So let's take our first break. When we get back, we'll pick up with the search having been completed, and we'll hear what the RCMP had to say about this. So Madeline, let's pick up with the story with an RCMP press release. So as we talked about already, during a roughly 3-day period at the end of September, the cadaver dog search took place. The public, or at least the people following this story, knew it was going to happen. It was in the news that it was coming. It was in the news that there was going to be a cadaver dog search. But then there was just kind of nothing. What we did know is if they found anything, it would have been major news. So just the absence of news updates about the cadaver dog search that everyone was expecting, the absence of that update led people to think they didn't find anything. It wasn't until the RCMP released a press release the first week of October, about a week and a half after the cadaver dog search happened, that we got the official explanation for what went down. I'm going to read it to you, and I apologize for the language used in this. Police press releases are often pretty kind of generically worded. Let me read it. The Northeast Nova RCMP Major Crime Unit continues to explore all possible scenarios in its efforts to locate Lilly and Jack Sullivan after searches in Lansdowne Station didn't result in finding human remains. In late September, Inspector Luke Reddy and his police dog Narc, as well as Sergeant Dave Whalen and his police dog Kit, searched for Lilly and Jack in Lansdowne Station, covering a total area of 40 kilometers. The teams, which are specially trained in detecting human remains, searched at the property from which the children went missing, along the pipeline trail and its intersecting trails, and in an area where a pink blanket had previously been found. However, the teams didn't locate any human remains. And now they're quoting people associated with this. The dogs are highly trained to detect and indicate the scent of human remains. Therefore, if the dogs didn't alert their handlers, it suggests that the dogs were never in the presence of human remains odors, explains Staff Sergeant Stephen Pike of the RCMP Police Dog Service Training Center. However, that doesn't definitively rule out the presence of remains in the areas that were searched. It means either the odor is there and couldn't be detected, or that the odor simply isn't there.
What?
I think what they're saying is it doesn't 100% guarantee that the children's remains aren't there. It's just that maybe what they could have, the way they could have said it would have been something like, these dogs are, highly effective, but not perfect.
I
Maybe
don't like
something
that.
Yeah.
I don't like any of that.
Yeah, let me just finish it off here. While the searches were occurring, the investigative team in the Northeast Nova Major Crime Unit continued to assess and follow up on information that has been gleaned from more than 860 tips that have been received to date and 8,060 video files that had been reviewed. As well, forensic testing is continuing. Now, another quote. There are multiple aspects of this investigation ongoing simultaneously, says Staff Sergeant Rob McCammon, officer in charge of the Major Crimes and Behavioral Sciences Unit. Each piece of information, including the results from the search team, helps inform our next steps. With support from agencies across Canada, the investigative team is working to validate or eliminate leads and follow the evidence wherever it takes us. At this stage, and as we've said all along, we're considering all possibilities, and we'll keep going until we determine with certainty the circumstances of the children's disappearance and they are found.
I don't like that.
It just would be nice to have something definitive, but we're going to move to Daniel again. After the search was completed, after this press release went out, CBC caught up with him again, and they asked for his take on, the failure to locate human remains. And one of the questions they asked him that I want to listen in on is, does this mean it's case closed for searching the woods? Is this the end of searching behind the children's home?
So what does this tell you now that the cadaver dogs were in, they didn't find anything? Do you think like the part on the woods, do you think that's case closed?
It should be case closed. It should have been case closed from the very start. Because with the amount of resources and technology and amount of searchers and everyone deployed in that first initial search, that was a lot. That was an 8 kilometer radius outwards. And it's just the amount of money and people's time, injuries that were sustained during that. It's just, people should have just opened their eyes to see that we need to look elsewhere. I pointed many fingers, and I think that's where the people should look.
Not here.
Not here.
Some interesting statements there. Some I agree with, some I'm a little puzzled by. For one, I agree, and I think this should be case closed for the woods, given the amount of searching, the ground searching, now cadaver dogs. If the children were going to be found in the woods, they would have been found by now. I feel like this is, unless there's some really good information that would lead to targeting a specific area, I think the case needs to focus specifically on other aspects of it.
As much as part of my brain keeps saying, like, remember how unforgiving nature can be and like how unforgiving those dense woods can be. But then every single avenue has been exhausted. And like, if the cadaver dogs didn't find anything, I don't think they're in there.
And what other search could you do that isn't already done as far as the wandering around search.
Well, and that was going to be my question for later. And we'll come back to it, but like what now?
Mhm.
What could they possibly be doing more to further this investigation?
Exactly. Uh, Daniel says, I've been saying it all along that there's other places they should look. I've been pointing the finger all along, kind of thing. It made it kind of sound like he was like calling someone out. But as far as I could tell, since the beginning, Daniel Martel has, the children's stepfather, has been saying things like they should close the borders, an Amber Alert, these sorts of things. I don't know if he's suggesting a specific person may be responsible, but I think what he's saying is this is clearly like somebody took these kids and searching this woods isn't going to find them. And yeah, I think it's probably, I don't speak for you, but I think we probably both agree with that. Somebody took these kids out of there. They didn't wander into the woods.
That's the only logical explanation because nothing's been found.
But it's frustrating that the police haven't said that specifically. Like as far as the police statements, we're exploring all avenues, but they've never said like we don't think the kids are in the woods. We think someone took them. Like they've never said anything direct like that. But everybody following this case,
and they probably won't.
Yeah, you're right. They probably won't. But as far as who took them, who's responsible, and who's having fingers pointed at them, the RCMP keep their cards close to their chest, so we don't know what their theories are. To get a glimpse behind the curtain a little bit, we can perhaps see a glimpse of the RCMP theory as the result of an alleged disturbing interaction, I'll call it a disturbing interaction, between Daniel Martel and one of the dog handlers during this dog search. This became like kind of a big news thing. When Daniel was being interviewed by CBC, and I think when he spoke to Global News as well, he talked about one of the dog handlers all but accusing him of being responsible for it. And this is surprising to me. I have a little bit of the clip from the CBC report where Daniel describes this interaction with a dog handler, and this is kind of surprising.
I'm so intrigued.
You were mentioning that you had a bit of a tense reaction with one of the dog handlers. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, it was a little bit heartbreaking and saddening to hear what the words that came out of his mouth. And for me, all I was trying to do was ever help.
What did he say?
He said your Thursday and all the way leading into Friday morning, there's not enough detail. And I said to him that Thursday was just an ordinary day until I woke up on Friday morning. And that's when life changed. There was nothing like life changing on Thursday.
Did he make any accusations at you?
Yeah, he did. He said that Thursday didn't have enough details and we think you did something to the kids Thursday night. And I asked him, what are you talking about? I just ran through whole Thursday and Wednesday with you. We just spent the last 20 minutes talking. And there's not enough detail because I thought it was an ordinary day.
That surprises me. I don't know the role of a dog handler, but I would have thought it's when you go to the hospital, the person who does the ultrasound or something on you, they're like a technician who just operates that machine. They pass the information along to the doctor who talks to you about the finer things.
Right.
I kind of thought a dog handler would be the same. They would go there, do their search, and pass that along to the investigators. But
yeah,
according to this, the way Daniel described it is when the dog handlers showed up to the property, they met with him and they're talking to him. And he said they didn't seem to even know a whole lot about the case. And they were saying, where do you think we should search? Where did you already search? And he described to CBC feeling like these people don't know what they're doing, but I'm happy that they're here, but I'm surprised they don't know much. But then somehow that also turns into them questioning him and all but accusing him of doing something to the children on Thursday night. And that surprises me that are they just socially inept, or are they trying to get him to confess to a dog handler?
Well, it's, so weird and fairly unprofessional. I wonder if that dog handler got in some sort of trouble, or if I always thought a dog handler was a member of the police force. Am I way off?
Well, they would be a member of the police force, but I would have thought that they would be a member of the police force that, especially with something specialized like a cadaver dog
Yeah.
search, I thought they would be focused just on getting the dog to do their thing. I didn't think it would be at the point where they would be like, I could see them talking with Daniel and asking some questions, but I didn't think it'd be like the way he describes that. It sounds more along the lines of an interrogation.
Yeah, or giving his unsolicited opinion on what he
Mm.
thinks happened.
But it could be strategy. And since we're on this topic, I want to jump around a little bit. Staff Sergeant Rob McCammon, he is the head of the Major Crimes Unit in Nova Scotia here, and he's ultimately the one responsible for this case. His voice would have been on prior episodes of the show because he does speak to the media quite a bit. He had a sit-down interview as well with several news outlets, but the one I'm going to play from is a CBC report where he sat down and talked about the search that found nothing, but they specifically asked him about this moment in the dog handler all but accusing to Daniel Martel.
I'm so glad someone brought it up.
And actually, before I play it, I should also say, we'll listen to a few more clips from Staff Sergeant McCammon's interview. But just since we're going to jump right to this piece, I should say, up until now, all of his answers in his sit down with CBC are confident. He's looking forward, speaking clearly. I did find his tone changes for this question. Here it comes.
So, did one of the handlers question the children's stepfather, Daniel Martel?
I can't comment on what was said between Mr. Martel and the dog handler. That's really not something I'm aware of or have knowledge on, and I don't have any comment there. So,
would it be common practice for a dog handler to question people who are involved in investigation?
There may be circumstances. I mean, I'm not sure that there's strict protocols on talking or not talking. I mean, when a dog handler, and maybe not protect this circumstance, but if you show up somewhere and you need to use a dog, you would probably gather some information to help you get that started. So there could be reasons for sure for PDS to be talking to somebody at the scene to get the information they need. But again, there's no solid and fast rules on that. So yeah, there may, they may talk to people when they deploy, when they may not. So.
What a non-answer.
Yeah, well, that's what they're good at. But that strikes me as someone who he probably knew the answer. And
he just said, that's none of my business. Next question.
Yeah, I don't even want to get into that. But I feel like he definitely knows what went down and is not up for talking about it on the news tonight.
Oh, absolutely not. No, he got the full rundown from the dog handler. He's like, I'm not touching that one. I'm not saying nothing.
Not going there. But let's, since we're on the topic of Staff Sergeant Rob McCammon, the head of the Nova Scotia Major Crimes Unit, let's listen to a bit more of the discussion they had with him on CBC. Here's how he answered the question, what did you find?
Dogs that are trained to detect human remains were in the community on the property where the children went missing. Mm-hmm. What did they find?
Well, they did not find or signify any, identify any scent of human remains during their search. So they searched the property around the family's home. They searched the area where we found the pink blanket, the pipeline area, and the intersecting trails. And they didn't, the dogs didn't indicate on any scent of human remains during those searches.
What does that mean?
Well, it means that they didn't locate any human remains or anything associated to this file or any open files, so there was no human remains found. It means that we've, basically completed that area of the search. It doesn't necessarily mean that that there's no possibility that there isn't human remains there. There could have been a chance the dogs maybe missed it or whatever, but at the end of the day, we haven't located any human remains.
He's better than me, because I would have said, that means exactly what I just said.
Yeah, but what they're so good at, this guy especially, is answering a question with the press release. Yeah. So this interview happened after that press release that we had read earlier was sent out. In his answer, it's just kind of like a recap of that press release.
What else do? They don't have any other information that they're willing to, say to the public at least. So I mean, you can't blame them.
Yeah, they got to say something, and
Yeah.
it's frustrating that at this point they don't admit that the kids didn't wander off into the woods, and that they don't just say this is obviously a criminal investigation. I'll play that actually as the last clip, because that's the question. If I could sit down with this guy, that would be the question I would ask him. Is it at this point finally a criminal investigation? I didn't get the chance to ask him that, but CBC did, and here's how he answered it.
So to be clear, it's currently not a criminal investigation.
No, it's not. We don't have any. We haven't collected evidence or facts or information that suggests criminal investigation or charges or anything like that at this time. So we are still investigating a missing person act.
The news release today mentioned you're exploring all possibilities. I think a lot of people are wondering what the possibilities are here.
Yeah. Of course, I can't talk about our investigative theories in our direction, but we, part of the role of being an investigator is to be unbiased and collect information and fact and make decisions based on that. So we continue to do that, and we will continue to do that until we have the answers we need to bring Jack and Lilly home.
So another, I suppose, non-answer, no surprises in hearing that explanation. But I think, I don't know what benefit, it is frustrating to not hear them say, they're clearly not in the woods, it's a criminal case. It's frustrating to not hear that, but I don't know what benefit there would be to the public for that.
No, it would just fuel the social media fire, in all honesty.
And also, investigating a missing persons case, police have different authorities and there's different things that they can do than a criminal investigation. There's a whole separate act in Nova Scotia, the Missing Persons Act, which gives additional powers to investigators that wouldn't normally be there in a criminal case. So there is some benefit to investigating this as a missing persons case until they absolutely need to. So maybe that could be a part of it.
They've been around the block. Like, they've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. So I've got a lot of confidence that they know what they're doing. I'd like to hope.
Yeah, I would hope so. But
that sigh wasn't super convincing.
Well, it's hard to be convinced where 5 months later, this is still ongoing. I never would have expected, we say this every episode we do about this case, I never would have expected it to go on this long. The idea that two children can vanish into thin air in this confined space with a select number of people on the scene, like really it's Daniel, Malaya, and Daniel's mom that are seem to be the three that are there and around.
And also, in 2025, it's hard to be a ghost in this day and age. You can't really, you're being watched all the time anywhere you go. And especially like you said, there's so few players in this game that it's what else do we do? Where else do we look?
And then on top of that, it's not like you're dealing with a group of criminal masterminds, and you're also dealing with people who seem to be open with this. At least Daniel and his mother have been on the news so often, every step of the way, Daniel especially. If he was responsible and he is that open with the media, it would be a completely unprecedented thing. And it's to the point that I just don't think it's even possible. But
well, anything's possible. I mean, what if he's a psychopath? We don't know.
You'd have to be beyond a psychopath. Even some of the highest profile examples of people speaking publicly to the media when it then comes out that they killed their kids or whatever, even the most high profile versions of that would pale in comparison to how often Daniel Martel is on the news talking about this.
That's true.
Every step of the way, he's the one who's standing there with the cameras and kind of saying things he shouldn't and just being a little weird, but and that's part of what makes me trust him. I just don't think it's possible. But
you'd think that this far into the investigation, it wouldn't have gotten this far if he had something to do with their disappearance. 5 months is a long time.
Yeah.
If he had something to do with it, they would have figured it out by now.
You would,
because like you said, he's not a criminal mastermind.
I agree. Let's take our final break. When we get back, I have one more news clip I want to share with you. It's Global News kind of did a roundup of the failed, so I'll call it the failed cadaver dog search. Failed only because it didn't find anything. I think the cadaver dog search was a success. It's just it didn't find anything. We'll hear Global News' recap of the whole thing. And there's a few interesting pieces to talk about in there, as well as we have a voicemail from a listener on a not so much a theory, but an observation I'd like to talk about with you as a new mother after this break.
A new update in the investigation into the disappearance of 6-year-old Lilly and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan is raising more questions than answers. The sister and brother went missing nearly 5 months ago, and on Wednesday, the Northeast Nova RCMP Major Crimes Unit announced their efforts to locate the children continue.
Are you considering this a criminal investigation yet?
We're still investigating it as a missing person act. We don't have, we follow facts and evidence. So we collect the information, and from that we base our decision making.
But for former officers like Jim Hoskins, everything made public in this case suggests criminal activity.
So you got 2 kids missing under those kind of circumstances. To me, definitely a major crime and a possible criminal offense somewhere. Something nefarious, to me, may very well have happened.
Not to mention a $150,000 reward for information, something Hoskins says you don't typically see in missing persons files.
All the techniques for a major crime are on display. They just haven't said it is a criminal investigation.
When the search first began back in May, sniffer dogs were called on scene. These dogs were specifically trained to pick up human scent, including that of recent human remains. Near the end of summer, human remains detecting dogs searched the area. The difference being these dogs can detect the scent of human remains months and even years following death. The dogs and their handlers scoured the 40-kilometer search area over the past few weeks, but turned up nothing.
98% of those dogs usually find something if it's there, especially after 5 months. The longer decomposition takes place, the stronger the scent is for these dogs.
Some interesting stuff in there. A good recap of the case and the investigation. But I think the part that stands out to me the most is the comments by the now retired RCMP Major Crimes Unit member, Jim Hoskins. He says, all aspects of a major crime investigation are on full display here. They're just not saying it. And I agree, like what this seems to be from the outside is we're getting a look at the RCMP conducting a significant investigation into a major crime. They're offering a reward through the Nova Scotia Rewards for Major Crimes program. They're doing the cadaver dog searches, all these search and seizure warrants with the polygraph testing and everything else. Like this all just screams we're investigating the homicide of 2 children. Yet they won't say that. The official explanation up to this point from the RCMP seems to be that they wandered away, and that seems so unbelievable.
Well, maybe they just don't have concrete evidence to declare it a criminal investigation happening. Like, yeah. I don't know.
Maybe
I find it hard to believe that they don't.
Yeah, but maybe what that tells us is that they really don't know much more than we do. And that is terrifying.
Oh, see, I never thought of that.
Yeah, because we had, and we've discussed in part 11 of this series, we went through all the search and seizure warrants, which gave a breakdown of the investigation up to this point, the polygraph testing, the getting telephone and bank records and everything else. What if all of that led them nowhere closer to finding these children, where they're like us, scratching their head, being like, oh, did Daniel do it? I don't know, get the dog handler to ask, see what happens.
You know what? Maybe it's as simple as that. Get the dog handler to ask.
Yeah, let's just see. We've tried everything else. Send the dog handler in.
Yeah, I don't know. That could be. I never thought that, maybe they're just as baffled as we are.
If so, actually, even if not so, if this case goes unsolved, this will forever haunt Nova Scotia, specifically the area of Pictou County. Like something this high profile of 2 children, 100 years from now, children in that area will be talking about like the boogeyman who took Jack and Lilly. Like I feel like this is the stuff of folklore if it's unsolved. And it's so unusual and unprecedented that two children can disappear from, again, it's not like they went missing near a raging river or from
No.
like next to an airport and bus station or something. It's two kids from the middle of nowhere on a Friday morning vanished, and Canada's top investigators cannot put it together.
I was just thinking this morning, I was daydreaming about our little rendezvous here. And I was like, what if in like 18 years they just show up alive and well as adults?
At this point, nothing would surprise me. It could happen. And one of the prevailing theories that you'll see discussed online, although I will say I have not seen anything that would possibly support this, one of the prevailing theories is that the kids were spirited away by someone either connected to Malaya or the children's biological father's family. They were spirited away somewhere to keep them safe from the dangerous Daniel Martel or keep them safe from some other kind of thing, and that the kids are being looked after and that everybody involved in this story knows it. You'll see variations of that discussed online a lot, but there's really no evidence to support that, as much as there is evidence to support this being like a UFO abduction or something. I think it's for the public, and hopefully not so much for the RCMP. It's a complete mystery. But the RCMP, of course, they're not going to provide any of their theories to the public. I'm sure they have some. It's just that after 5 months, I don't know. Their theories must not be great or must not have enough supporting information to push this further.
Which is bizarre because, it is a mystery for sure, but there's an answer.
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, we won't answer that tonight, but what we will do is answer a piece of listener voicemail.
Hi, Jordan and Madeline. This is Audrey from Rhode Island. Been listening to all the episodes on the disappearance of Jack and Lilly Sullivan. And one thing that has been on my mind is the parents said they slept till 10 o'clock in the morning. And I don't know anyone who has kids, even little kids, that can sleep till 10 o'clock in the morning. Wouldn't you think that, you don't hear them around, so wouldn't you get up and check to see where they are? So that's one thing that's been on my mind. Thanks.
Let's both take a stab at it. First of all, for me, thinking of the timeline is Malaya did wake up at her alarm went off at something like 6 in the morning. She went on her phone and she marked the kids absent from school. She was in bed with her baby and she kind of just dozed back off. So I feel like it's not so much that they slept in till 10. I always say they were lazing in bed because I feel like they were in and out of sleep, but they remained in the bed till 10. Because we did hear as well, Malaya got up at 6-ish, marked the kids out from school. Daniel described hearing them out in another room and Lily sticking her head in a few times. So it seems like that wasn't necessarily sleeping in. I like lazing in. But what do you think of this? Does that shock you or surprise you or make you question anything?
It does and always has. I totally agree with Audrey. I
think it was Audrey. Yeah.
Our caller. I'll say our caller.
Okay.
It's just, even if they were just lazing around in and out of a slumber, you don't get up and make sure your kids had breakfast and both of you, maybe one parent keeps snoozing with the baby. But also in that same breath, my kid's not 18 months old anymore, but even when she was, she didn't really snooze from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Yeah.
She was up.
I know every baby's different, but when I have two, when they were 18 months, there's no way I was laying in bed till 10 o'clock.
No.
I would have been getting punched in the face from about 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock, probably. Hit with an iPad.
Yes, exactly. And if I am the one in bed, my kid's up and downstairs with her dad. But then, on the other hand of things, I just have to remember that not everyone parents like I do. Unfortunately, households run differently. But I agree with our caller that it's the whole laying in bed till 10 a.m. has always been just off to me, especially when such young kids are in the equation.
Yeah, but I think like if that didn't happen and that was a part of a cover story to hide an evil deed, why would it be necessary? Because I think I hate having to try to put this in words. If one of them did it, I feel like both of them had to have been involved. So
Yes.
why would they need to lie and say, well, we slept in till 10? Like it seems like they could have come up with a better story. Like let's say if they did something, if one of them did it, they both would have had to known, I think. If they did it the night before, why wait till 10 a.m. and have to make up this weird story about sleeping in and everything?
And the grandmother heard the kids in the yard at like 9 a.m.
So she would
and I believe that.
Yeah, and she would have to be in on it too then. So if
and you're getting too many people into the equation. They always say 3 people can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead. So yeah, it's just, and yeah, like you've said previous, there's no way that Daniel and Malaya, if one of them knew something, they would have turned on each other by now.
It would only make sense.
This has gone on too long and their stories haven't changed.
Yeah. And then in the background, you have a custody dispute over their baby Meadow, and the custody disputes get ugly. You have their breakup. It's all, there's so much that would motivate them to turn on the other one. And then on one side you have, if the 3 of them were involved, Daniel, Malaya, and Daniel's mom, Daniel and his mom could match their stories up to make it look like Malaya was the one who did it. And why wouldn't they do that? Yeah. You hear of, like, if there's 3 criminals that did this horrible thing and they're about to get busted, 2 of them are going to decide to turn on the other one. It will happen every single time. And one side of this would be Daniel and his mom. They could so easily, if all 3 of them were in on it, they could so easily paint Malaya as the villain. And the fact that none of this stuff seems to be happening makes me think that none of them were involved, despite what people say online.
One of them would have taken a plea deal already and sold the other one out. Mm-hmm. Because, yeah, you tell us where they are, you'll only get this much time or whatever, just house arrest or whatever. It just nothing adds up about it.
What a story. It's tragic, but it's just, it's mystifying. There's no easy explanation. And that's a part of the reason, like, so many people are drawn to this case. One, because it seems to be a crime against 2 vulnerable children, which no one can stand for. But it's also this mystery that really points you in no direction. And I think that's a part of the reason people can't look away. But it's certainly slowing down. It's been several weeks since we've done an episode, and were it not for the cadaver dog search, the only thing that we would have to talk about in this story would be online rumors and finger pointing from people on the far outskirts of this story. So it's, it's slowing down, and this cadaver dog search really brought everything back to the surface, at least momentarily. But I didn't expect this to happen, and maybe something else we don't expect to happen is just around the corner.
I hope so. And I hope that corner is close, because people are getting tired of waiting.
I want to thank you for joining us for this episode of the Canadian Gothic. Now, before I wrap things up here, I want to send positive vibes to everyone affected by this case. And I also want to call out to anyone close to the case who'd like to add their voice to this story. You can reach out to me, and I'd be happy to include you in an upcoming episode. Now, with that said, I'm going to start wrapping up this episode, but before we do, I'll have some thanks to pass out. First, a big thanks to Madeleine Klein for joining us for another episode of the Canadian Gothic. A big thanks to Monty Datta, who contributes the music to this show, and Linz from the Dystopian Simulation podcast, who provides our intro and outro voiceovers. And then lastly, but most importantly, a massive thank you goes out to each and every one of you listening to this show, as without your interest and your support, the Canadian Gothic would be as pointless as it would be impossible. Now, on the topic of support, let me thank the newest subscribers to the premium feed. Joyce, Kristen, and Delta, we appreciate you. And for anyone else who'd like to support the show, you can help us out here in a variety of ways. First of all, a premium feed subscription costs just a couple bucks a month, and that money will fund the creation of new episodes. But the premium feed will also give you those episodes 2 days early, give them to you ad-free, and give you access to a back catalog of episodes. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you can go premium right now at thecanadiangothic.com/subscribe. And even if you don't want to go premium, you can still support the show by sharing this episode on social media and letting your like-minded friends know why they should listen. Your support is very much appreciated. Now, until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let us know if you see anything weird.
Thank you for listening to Canadian Gothic.